A very good afternoon to one and all present here. First of all, I thank you all for your registration towards this webinar. I welcome you all for the webinar on cloud application deployment and maintenance, which is organized by SRM PRK Engineering College, SRM Group, Trichy. It is my privilege to welcome our resource person, Mr. Arjun Ishwaran, who is working as a software specialist, Robert Bosch Engineering and Business Solutions India Private Limited, Coimbatore. I especially welcome our resource person, Mr. Arjun Ishwaran. And Mr. Arjun has more than 8 years of experience in DevOps, configuration management, and working for Bosch now. And he has worked with Cognizant and Verizon before he joined Bosch in 2018. And his area of interest is cloud computing and virtualization. And he has more than 8 years of experience in software suite. And now he is with us to in order to spend the session. And I hand over the session to Mr. Arjun.
Okay, today's topic is cloud application deployment and maintenance. So this will be our agenda today. So we will see an overview of cloud computing and how to deploy applications on the cloud. And as part of containerization, we will talk about two tools which is being used in the industry, and they are industry standard tools. They are Docker and then Kubernetes. And we'll see a small example of how to deploy an application using Kubernetes onto the cloud. And finally, we'll go with the question and answer session. So about the overview of cloud computing. So cloud computing is one of the upcoming technologies which is being adopted in many companies. So cloud computing is nothing but the availability of high-end computer resources for using within the company and hosting the application on the cloud. So it also enables to scale our application as well as update our application easily. So in general, cloud computing can be classified the following three categories: public cloud, private cloud, and hybrid cloud. So public cloud is being offered by companies like Amazon.com. So you might be aware of the tool Amazon Web Services, which is offering the public cloud. Private cloud is being used by some companies for their internal use. Those who are not opting out for public cloud will use the private cloud. So if you see private cloud, who is using private cloud? One of the major players in the industry, HP and IBM are using private cloud of their own. So hybrid cloud is nothing but the combination of both public and private cloud. Okay, going on with the next slide. So we'll see what are the cloud service models available as of now. So cloud service models are of the basic types are of three types. We have still few more. So I will discuss about these three things only right now. So first one is software as service. Software as a service, you can take an example of a website where users use the software and they get the service. So companies provide the service via software applications and end users use it. Next one is platform as a service. Platform as a service includes everything: operating system, application, and storage. Everything is being provided by the vendor. Next is infrastructure as a service. So AWS can be considered as an example for this. So infrastructure, they provide the infrastructure like data center, storage space, networking, everything they provide. So the full stack is being provided by the companies like AWS. So this is the IaaS, infrastructure as service model. Next, we'll move on to pros and cons of the cloud computing. So cloud computing seems to be very economical for companies who cannot invest a huge amount of money in terms of hardware and resources. So another advantage of cloud is you can scale your application. Scale your application in the sense you can improve, you can increase the number of instances, for example, resources dynamically, and you can do load balancing. For example, if your application is receiving, consider you're hosting a web application and it receives a lot of requests from the internet traffic. So you cannot send all the traffic to a single instance, and it will get overloaded, and sometimes it can crash. So to avoid this, cloud computing offers a more easy way of managing the traffic by spinning up more instances, which will help to load balance the traffic to the less utilized nodes. Next one is cloud availability. So cloud is highly available. So it is available for 99.99 percentage. And some companies offer, and they ensure that it is all the applications are all their hardware are available all of the times. Cons, coming to cons, we have security issues with the public cloud, not with the private cloud. When you go to a public cloud, it is not considered to be safe for production applications, whereas in private cloud it is safe. Next one is internet connectivity. So in order to access whether you are having resources with a cloud provider, or your application is being hosted on a cloud provider, you need to have internet connectivity. So without internet connection, you cannot access anything, even though the resource you're paying monthly or yearly. So you need to have internet connectivity. uh, when compared to the conventional model, this is a drawback in with the cloud. Final con is less control over the resources. We cannot control our resources. Everything is being managed by the cloud provider. So these are the some of pros and cons of cloud computing. Cloud players. I have listed some of the cloud players here. You might be aware of some other small players. You can also mention that. So first and foremost is Amazon.com. Amazon.com started the cloud service in 2006. So it is leading in the industry now. So most of the images provided by Amazon are from Linux. They offer Linux VMs, virtual machines. Apart from it, Microsoft also started to offer Microsoft images to on Amazon Cloud, because they need to cope up with the industry. That's why they have provided the Microsoft image freely on Amazon Web Services. Next is a competitor to Amazon.com. It is Azure from Microsoft, and third one is GCP, Google Cloud Platform, offered by Google. Most of the cloud providers offer free services to some extent. You can always go log into these websites and create accounts, and you can try to work out what is being offered there. And it will give you an overview and knowledge on how cloud works. So next to our, as I said earlier, next to our private cloud providers, which means they don't provide any service to the public. So it is for their own internal use. IBM Smart Cloud and HP Enterprise Converged Infrastructure. So next we go with the containerization. Let me explain how we did application installation in an easy term. We used to download applications from the internet. For example, you can consider application, for example, Notepad++. It is a text editor tool, and it has a lot of features. If you in an organization, teams might have multiple operating systems. For example, Mac OS, they might be having it for their development purpose, or Linux, or Windows. Windows is the most commonly used, but the one limitation is, if you want to create an application, for example, Notepad. Notepad offers three variants of binary. So you cannot install the Notepad application which is on Windows on a Mac machine or on Linux. So they offer three types of binaries. So this enables, like, they need to work on three different types of binaries. So this is an overhead for them, and this is also not productive. So a Notepad as an application does the same job all over, but why do we need to build three different types of application? So that is a limitation. That's when containerization came into the picture. So containers are nothing but software packages which can be used universally on any operating system. So So this containers will run on Docker engine. So it never cares about the operating system. So it operates without the knowledge of the underlying operating system. So also some of the advantages of container, it's a lightweight and the code is very less. And containers also contains everything, like from the binary settings, everything are everything are packaged into a single package and then deployed on Docker engine. It will also run regardless of the infrastructure, and it will also help to isolate each container from one another, and we can also communicate between these containers. So right now it will not be very easy to understand this container. So in going slides, maybe I will show some commands on how container works. You will get to know the picture. So why do we go for containerization is the next topic. So we already discussed, and here are a few more points which will help in understanding the why we need containers. Um, So containers are easy to deploy, and while creating binary packages for different OSs, you create an image using Docker, and then you deploy it to the virtual machines. And it also helps in continuous integration and continuous deployment. So continuous integration and continuous deployment is a core topic in DevOps. So uh, each time a developer goes with a new fixes for an application, so that needs to go to the testing environment and staging and then finally to the production. So this Docker will help in easy deployment of these containers within the VM environment. So few more advantages of containers. The resource utilization can be predicted, and as I said earlier, load balancing is also done here. So this helps in efficiently managing the application on cloud, and cost is also saved much. For example, if the traffic is increased, then automatically the containers scale up, which means new instances will spin up, and the traffic will be managed. If no applications or no requests are coming in, the uh, the number of containers will come to zero, or we can manually come to make it to zero, so that cost is saved. In cloud, every minute you use will be charged. So container is an app tool for cloud environment. Next we come to Docker. So Docker is a tool which first introduced containerization, and Docker provides a standard for containerized applications. So this is the overview of Docker. So if you want to try out Docker, first you need to install the Docker engine. Docker engine basically has these 6 components: distribution, orchestration, volumes, containerd, Docker build, and networking. So Docker API and Docker CLI are two interfaces to Docker engine. So you can communicate with either Docker API or Docker CLI. Docker CLI is like command line options. So you can use command line options to spin a new Docker instance, and then you can also use API. So distribution is nothing but distribution of containers. Orchestration is managing the container, starting the container, stopping the container, and monitoring the health of the container. Volumes is the storage. Container is a service which takes care of the container. Docker build is a tool which is used to build Docker images that can be deployed on a VM or Docker engine. Networking is the communication between these containers and outside of the container. So as I said, Docker engine is the core of the Docker. So API and CLI are available, and build kit is a tool to build Docker files. Containerd manages container lifecycles. Okay. What are containers? Containers are abstraction at an app layer. So container is an abstraction made by Docker. It abstracts the OS. When you go to virtual machines, it abstracts there is hypervisor which abstracts the hardware. In contrast, here Docker abstracts the operating system itself. So one more option is multiple containers can run on the same machine. It shares the same user kernels resources and everything. So this is an overall picture of how containerized application is compared with the virtual environment. So on the left side, you see how containerized applications run. So infrastructure is common for both. Both needs infrastructure. For example, a Docker can be installed on a Windows laptop or a Linux machine or even a Mac machine, and you can run Docker. But when it comes to the application layer, all the applications are common for all the operating systems. Whereas you go to the virtual environment, so above the infrastructure is the hypervisor. So hypervisor virtualizes everything. So on top of it, you have virtual machine. So you have multiple virtual machines with guest operating system. So one can be Windows, another can be Linux or Mac. Anything can be installed. So this is the comparison and overview of how containers application differs from our normal virtual application. So these are a few Docker commands. Right. Due to time constraint, I will not be able to explain Docker commands in detail. So we have another tool, Kubernetes, which will orchestrate the Docker containers, deploy an application, scale an application, or remove or update an application. So Kubernetes helps in orchestration of these containers. So Kubernetes is a tool which will not works alone. So Kubernetes and Docker work in parallel. So let's go to the overview of Kubernetes. So Kubernetes is a portable extensible tool which manages the containers and also the workloads. So it takes care of the workloads and it also takes care of the containers. It will also spin up new nodes in case a node dies, and it will manage the nodes effectively. So this is the overview of Kubernetes. So Kubernetes have two main concepts: Kubernetes control plane and Kubernetes nodes. So within Kubernetes control plane, everything is this is used for controlling your instances in the cloud. You have three machines which runs Kubernetes, kubeproxy, and kubelet. So beneath that lies the Docker engine. So when you come to Kubernetes control plane, Kubernetes control manager, cloud control manager, kube API server, kube scheduler, and etcd. These are the five components in Kubernetes control plane. So kubelet communicates with a kube API server with the API exposed by kube API server. So it will communicate with via the API. So we'll discuss about some traditional methods of deployment. Uh, Earlier, when we used to deploy application to multiple physical servers, there are a lot of limitations, and we have to put a lot of efforts to deploy application to multiple servers at a time. So that is the traditional era. So we came to virtualized era where we have multiple virtual machines running on a single hardware, and we can easily deploy the applications on it. But even with multiple OSs, it was difficult to put extra effort to package each application for each OS. So that's when containerization era came. So containerization era was very much helpful in terms of deployment to the cloud, and everything is managed and decoupled. If a container is not working, we can just simply remove it, so it cannot crash the entire operating system. Okay, so we'll talk about Kubernetes. In a Kubernetes, a cluster is a main unit. A cluster is controlled by master, and a single cluster has at least three nodes. All three nodes are controlled by master. So we have the control plane where everything runs and controls these master and nodes. So nodes has kubelet, kubeproxy, and container runtime. Container runtime is nothing but the Docker engine. Kubeproxy will help in communicating with other kubelets, and kubelet will help in communicating with the main kube API server. So this is a basic representation of a cluster. So here we have three clusters. This might be very small. If you see closely, each node has a kubelet and a Docker runtime. So all these three nodes are controlled by the master, and each node has a application running on it. So within, if you go within a node, you have pods. You have multiple pods. Pods has unique IP address for each pods, and containerized applications run on these pods. So we will come to pods. Pods are the basic entity in a node, which can run many containerized application in parallel. So a node can be considered as a virtual machine or physical machine in Kubernetes. Uh, as I said, each node has a kubelet which communicates with the master, and the node uses the Kubernetes API to communicate with the master during deployment. So next we'll go with how to deploy your application on cloud using Kubernetes and Docker. So this is the command which is used to check the Kubernetes version. So kubectl. Okay, we have this kubectl command with which we can start the Kubernetes deployment. So we already have a Docker image saved in Google samples folder. So we are going to deploy a sample application on Kubernetes cluster. So now you can see on the screen we have just checked the Kubernetes version of this particular version, and it is 1.17.3. So next we are going to create a deployment of this particular application. This application is nothing but a simple echo application like hello world program. So we have created the deployment using kubectl create deployment, and this is a sample name which you have to provide for this application. Going forward, this application name will be referred everywhere to this particular image. So this is a Docker image which is stored in Google samples folder, Kubernetes bootcamp version 1. So once you create the deployment, you will get a message deployment is complete. So consider this as deploying application on your Windows machine. For example, you deploy Outlook, or you deploy Notepad you install Notepad onto your machine. So going with the next slide. So I am just checking my deployments. So here kubectl git deployments command will help in getting what are the things deployed onto your cluster. So I have deployed Kubernetes bootcamp, and it says 1 out of 1 node is ready. We are right now we are working on only single cluster. So this cluster one node is ready and is up to date and is available. And I created it some time back. So it says age is 106 seconds. Here this is a web application. So I give a curl request to that particular application. So it gives the details of this particular Kubernetes bootcamp application. So next is I'm exporting this name of this pod to this variable, and just displaying it. Name of this pod is bootcamp, and this particular thing is git hash, and this is the pod. This is the pod ID 7172C. So if I give the get pods command, it will provide me the pods which are running. Next we start this application in the background. This is like HTTP server which listens to the request and response. And parallelly, if we request this URL with the pod name, we will get the reply hello Kubernetes bootcamp, and this is running on this particular pod, and this version is 1. So if we go to the previous slide, this is the pod ID here, P6999F. So we got a request from this particular pod saying we have sent a request to this particular pod to the kube proxy, and kube proxy via the kube proxy the pod has executed the application, and we have got the output hello Kubernetes bootcamp running on this particular pod, and the version is 1. So next is services. So without services, a Kubernetes cluster is almost useless. You cannot use the Kubernetes cluster without the service. Service is a abstraction which exposes the pods and the cluster to the outer environment. So as I said, pods are assigned unique IP address. They are not reachable unless we expose it using a service. So service helps to expose your app to the clusters which are uh, outside of the particular environment. So you can consider services logical units. So here we have service A and service B. The service A uses only one single node, which has one pod, and service B has two two nodes, one with one pod and other with two pods. So these all have unique IP addresses. So going with creating a new pod, we can use this command kubectl get pods, and then we are going to expose this pod to the existing environment. So this command will help in exposing this pod like Kubernetes bootcamp to the outside world. So I use this kubectl expose deployment. I'm just exposing this deployment, and once I again issue this services command, I see two services are running. So this particular service, this application is being exposed by the service, and it is accessible to the outer world. So now I'm making a request using the kube IP and kube port. So on the previous slide, we have IP and IP assigned for each node. So we have to make the request with IP and node port. So I'm just using this port number 3119, and I get a pod V5FFF9, and the version is 1. It's running on this particular pod. Next we come to application scaling. So application scaling is nothing but uh, elastically improving our performance either in hardware terms or software terms. So in cloud environment, always the demand is unpredictable. Sometimes you might get a huge number of internet traffic to a particular application, and if you're not load balancing or scaling then all the requests go to a single instance or single pod, and it will get overloaded. So application scaling is an important topic here. So we can scale pods to any number. For example, you can scale pods to 4, 5, 6, 7, and 10, 11, or 100. And the load balancer is enabled such that each coming request will be going to each single pod in a round robin fashion. So first pod is getting the first request, and second pod is getting the second request. You have 100 pods, and the 101th request will go to first pod again. So these pods are also being monitored by the service using endpoints. So it will also ensure pod is not getting crashed. If a pod is crashed, or if a node is crashed, another new instance will be spinned up by the service. So here we have a sample scaling commands. So I'm just getting what are the applications deployed, or what are the containers deployed in this particular cluster. So here kubectl get deployments. So this bootcamp is deployed, and we have only one pod running at this time. So we'll scale this to 4. So I have given -hyphen replicas equal to 4. So our hello Kubernetes bootcamp application will be scaled to 4 numbers. So we already have one. Another three new pods will come. So here I'm scaling to 4. The command is kubectl scale deployments Kubernetes bootcamp replicas equal to 4. So here I'm again getting the deployments. So earlier it was one earlier it was 1 out of 1, and now it is 4 out of 4 parts, and all of the status is running. So we have these four parts running right now, which we can also do the vice versa. We can also scale down. If you do the replicas as 0, then all these will be killed. So I'm just creating a call request to check the pod ID. So here I export this variable node port, and then I'm providing the call command to that particular port. So here there are 2 instances running. Totally we have 4 instances. So the first call request which I make. So the first call request which I make here goes to this particular pod ID. The second request which I made goes to the. So this happens in a round robin fashion. Like the traffic comes flowing in. So next one comes the updating of your application. So we saw about how to deploy an application, how to scale an application. Now final topic is updating an application, because applications are always changing and new changes get added in, and more changes get moved out. So next we'll see about how to update your application on cloud. Or another topic is promote your application from one environment to another environment. And also we can also roll back application previous versions. For instance, if you're going for a deployment and something is wrong, then in production everything is critical and you need to roll back to the previous version to make the system stable. So Kubernetes also has this feature to roll back to the previous versions. So here we'll try to deploy a new application. So for that I have I'm going to deploy a new application, which means only the version changes. So here version is 2. This particular bootcamp application version 2. So you give this command kube deployment image kubectl set image deployments Kubernetes, and you mention the version as 2, and the response is kube deployment.apps kube image updated, and you also see the old pods getting terminated, and new pods with new pod IDs are running. So it says creating container, terminating. So pending. So these kind of statuses implies that our application is being updated. So I'm giving the request again to check the version is updated or not. So it says version 2 here, the last, and it also says deployment successfully rolled out. That is all with today's presentation. So if you have any questions, you can ask.
Thank you very much, Arjun sir, for your wonderful presentations. The session was very useful, and we can convert to these ideas to students community. And thank you once again. And dear participants, if you have any queries, you can ask to you can shoot the questions to Mr. Arjun now.
Sir, this is Roja. Arjun, sir.
Hi, Roger. Yeah.
Sir, I would like to ask you two things, sir.
Yes,
The first
Roger.
thing, which hypervisor is better, which VirtualBox or VMware on top of Windows 7 or Windows 8?
Each has its pros and cons. You can use whichever you want, Roger. VirtualBox is one of the good tool which we are
Okay.
even using in Office. What is the other tool you talked about?
VMware.
Okay, VMware. It is, you have to pay, right? It is being sold for. Is it being sold free for single person. We have to purchase the license. But unlike VMware, VirtualBox is not proprietary software, even though it is acquired by Oracle. Earlier, it was open source software provided by Sun Microsystems. So you can use VMware. Sorry, you can use VirtualBox.
VirtualBox.
VMware is being used at enterprise level.
Okay, sir. Okay. One more thing, sir. Can you suggest any special tutorials for cloud computing? Is there any tutorial specialized site for this?
Roger, depends upon your requirement. What are you planning to learn? Cloud technology like AWS or Azure? Can you be more specific?
Oh, okay, sir.
No, can you be more specific? Which tool you want to learn?
Virtualization.
Roger, you can Roger, I will type in the chat window. Roger, you can practice in this particular website, Katacoda, which will have most of the cloud tools there. You can go there and practice. It is free of cost.
Okay.
And you can get to learn something in something.
Okay, sir. Okay, thank you very much, sir.
Yeah.
Dear participants, in chat box I have mentioned the feedback link, and use the link and give your feedback. And once you fill up your feedback, you can get your e-certificates to your mail ID.
Hello, Asin sir. Sir, I got one question. Can you explain about Open Nebula? Which one is better, Open Nebula or Kubernetes?
This is Parthasarathi.
No, sir.
Hello.
Karpaya. Yes, sir. I am Karpaya.
Karpaya, I worked only on Docker and Kubernetes and not on Open Nebula. So you can explore both and see what are the differences.
Okay, here in the text box, in the chat box, I have mentioned the feedback link, and kindly fill it up your feedback, and you can get the e-certificates through your mail, and it will be open for the next 10 minutes only. So within 10 minutes, you can fill your feedback forms. So after 10 minutes, the session will be ended up.